My brother Eric's voice cut through the happy noise of our family barbecue. Audrey? Handle a mortgage? He chuckled, shaking his head. She can barely handle picking up drinks without spilling. I froze, the tray of lemonades in my hand suddenly heavy. Our parents, aunts, and cousins all laughed along with him. It was a warm, sunny day, but I felt cold all over. My cheeks burned with humiliation. Eric smiled, completely satisfied with his joke, oblivious to the hurt in my eyes. He clapped a cousin on the back and turned away, the conversation moving on as if he'd just stated a simple fact. I forced a weak smile and finished passing out the drinks. My hands trembled slightly. In that moment, surrounded by my laughing family, I made a silent vow. He would not write my story. I stepped away from the crowd, my heart pounding a furious rhythm against my ribs. Sitting alone in my car, I replayed the moment. The casual cruelty of it. Eric hadn't been angry or trying to start a fight. That was the worst part. He'd said it so easily, so confidently, because he truly believed it. The hurt was a sharp ache, but beneath it, a new feeling ignited, a fierce, quiet determination. I wouldn't scream or argue. That's what he expected, an emotional reaction he could dismiss. No. I needed to be smarter. I needed a plan. I stared at my reflection in the rearview mirror, my eyes still shiny with unshed tears. Okay, Audrey, I whispered to myself. Prove it. Prove it so thoroughly he'll never doubt you again. A spark of an idea began to glow in the dark hurt. I would show him what responsibility really looked like. I started the engine, the hum matching my newfound resolve. A few days later, I was flipping through the local newspaper, a habit from my dad. A small real estate ad in the corner caught my eye. A cozy bungalow in the older, tree-lined part of town. The price made my breath hitch, but it wasn't impossible. Just intimidating. An idea solidified. That afternoon, I walked into the small realty office listed in the ad, my heart in my throat. I pretended to be a curious first-time looker, asking general questions about the neighborhood and the market. The realtor, an older woman named Ms. Henderson, was patient and kind. She didn't treat my questions as silly. Then, almost offhandedly, she mentioned it. You know, there's a new city program for first-time buyers, she said, tapping her pen on a brochure. With your job history, you might just qualify. She slid the brochure toward me. I was at the hardware store the following weekend, picking up a new shelf bracket, when I heard his voice. Eric was in the next aisle with a couple of his friends. Audrey? She's got her head in the clouds, he was saying, a familiar smugness in his tone. Think she's going to buy a house now. It's a phase. She'll get overwhelmed by the paperwork and give up. She always does. His friends chuckled. I stood frozen, my fist clenched around the metal bracket. The old me would have cried. The new me listened, every insult etching itself into my memory. He was so sure of my failure. He wasn't even trying to hide his doubt, he was broadcasting it. As his laughter faded down the aisle, a cold clarity settled over me. His arrogance was his weakness. He was so busy telling everyone what I couldn't do, he wouldn't see what I was actually doing. I placed the bracket in my cart. The game was on. That night, I created a spreadsheet. It was my secret battlefield. Tab 1, a brutal budget, cutting every unnecessary expense. Tab 2, a timeline for improving my credit score. Tab 3, research on home inspections, mortgages, and closing costs. I worked until my eyes were dry, fueled by the memory of Eric's laughing voice. This wasn't a dream anymore, it was a mission. Every coffee I didn't buy, every freelance gig I took on, was a silent step toward my goal. Eric thought I was drifting, being my usual irresponsible self. He had no idea I was becoming a scholar of real estate and personal finance. The glow of my laptop screen was the only light in my quiet apartment, illuminating my detailed, color-coded path to victory. It was my first concrete step, and it felt powerful. At work, I must have sighed while looking at a particularly confusing property listing online. My coworker, Maya, leaned over the cubicle wall. "First-time buyer blues?" she asked softly. I nodded, embarrassed. To my surprise, Maya smiled. "My sister's a real estate agent." "A good one. Let me talk to her." I hesitated, fearing word would get back to Eric. Maya seemed to read my mind. "Discretion is her middle name," she promised. A few days later, I was having coffee with Elena, Maya's sister. She listened to my goals and my unique family situation. "So we need this to be airtight and surprise-shaped," Elena said, her eyes twinkling. She agreed to mentor me quietly. "We'll do everything by the book," she said, leaning in. "But we'll do it so well, it'll be a masterpiece." Somehow, Eric found out. Maybe a careless comment I'd made to our mom. He cornered me at a family dinner. "Audrey, be serious," he said loudly, so the whole table could hear. "Playing house? You'll just waste everyone's time. That realtor, what's her name? Henderson? I should give her a call, save her the trouble." He smirked, expecting me to crumble. I just took a sip of water. "Do what you have to do, Eric," I said calmly. His smirk faltered for a second. Later, as I helped clear plates, I overheard him on the phone in the hallway. "Yeah, Henderson Realty, my sister's a bit of a fantasist." I didn't wait to hear more. I knew my timeline had just accelerated. I left the dinner quietly, my mind already racing ahead. With Elena's guidance, I gathered every document. Pay stubs, tax returns, bank statements. It felt like exposing my entire financial life to a stranger. The waiting was agony. Then, the email arrived. Pre-approval confirmed. I read those 3 words a dozen times. I didn't tell a soul, not even my parents. This was my secret weapon. At my next meeting with Ms. Henderson, I casually mentioned I was pre-vetted. Her eyebrows rose appreciatively. "Well, that changes things," she said, her demeanor shifting to one of serious business. "There's a property, not even on the market yet. The owners are retiring. It might be perfect." She showed me a picture. It was the bungalow from the ad, but better. My heart skipped a beat. Eric hosted a brunch at his apartment, a showpiece of what he considered success. He held court, talking about his investments and the big deal he was closing. "You have to be strategic," he announced, pointing his fork around. "Not get distracted by pipe dreams." He glanced at me, a silent jab. I just buttered my toast. Our mom nodded along with him. "Eric has such a good head for these things," she said. Then Eric, fueled by confidence, added, "Yeah, unlike some people chasing that little house on Oak Lane." He said it like it was a joke. He had no idea I knew the owner was retiring. He had no idea I was already in the race. I smiled softly into my coffee cup. His knowledge was outdated, and his arrogance was his blindfold. With Elena on speakerphone, I drafted my offer on the bungalow. We used every bit of my research. We offered a quick closing, which the retirees loved, and a sincere letter about loving the garden they'd nurtured. Ms. Henderson presented it. She called me later, sounding impressed. "They liked your offer. It's not the highest, but it's clean and sincere. You've done your homework." I allowed myself a small, hopeful breath. Not 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was a text from a confused friend. "Hey, your brother just called me asking for Ms. Henderson's personal number. Said it was urgent." My blood ran cold. He was making his move. I waited, nerves stretched tight. An hour later, Ms. Henderson called. "Your brother called," she said, her voice cool. I informed him I do not discuss client business. Ever. The relief was so intense I nearly cried. The relief was short-lived. Ms. Henderson called again, her voice tense. Another offer came in. Higher. The sellers are hesitating. The floor seemed to drop away. All my planning, my saving, my hope, crashing into one terrible what if. Doubt, Eric's favorite weapon, crept into my mind. Maybe he was right. Maybe this was too big for me. I spent a sleepless night staring at the contract documents Elena had sent me. In the gray light of dawn, a single line in the inspection clause caught my eye. It was standard, but it gave me a 10-day window for due diligence. An idea, desperate and brilliant, began to form. I wasn't out of the fight yet. The next family dinner was tense. My aunt pulled me aside. "Audrey, honey," she began gently. "I heard a little rumor about some credit card debt. Maybe a house isn't the best idea right now." I felt the sting of betrayal. Eric had been busy. He'd gotten to a family friend, spinning lies about my finances. I saw him watching from across the room, a faint smile on his lips. He was poisoning my support system. I looked my aunt in the eye. "I appreciate your concern," I said, my voice steady despite my shaking hands. "But my finances are in order. Someone is spreading stories." I didn't look at Eric, but I felt his smile vanish. The truth was my shield, and I would let it defend me. The following weeks were a blur of quiet persistence. I met with a stern but fair loan officer, armed with my flawless paperwork. I spent evenings reading about roofing and plumbing. I politely but firmly negotiated a small repair credit after the inspection, with Elena whispering advice in my ear. I was becoming an expert in a field I never knew existed. One night, as I was reviewing the final loan commitment letter, a text came in from Maya at work. It was just a screenshot of a group chat where Eric was ranting about naive people and over their heads. Under it, Maya had written, "You're really making him nervous. Keep going." I stared at the words. He wasn't laughing anymore. He was worried. The stress triggered a memory. I was 12, trying to build a birdhouse for a school project. Eric, 15, had grabbed the hammer from me. "You'll just smash your thumb, AUD. Let me handle it." He finished it quickly, perfectly. My parents praised him. "Such a responsible young man," my dad said. My lopsided, unsanded effort was tucked away in the garage, forgotten. That was our pattern. His competence overshadowing my attempts, until I stopped trying in his shadow. Sitting in my quiet apartment, the memory didn't hurt as much. It fueled me. This house wasn't just a purchase. It was me finally building my own thing, my way. This time, I whispered to my younger self, "I'm holding the hammer." Ms. Henderson's call was urgent. The other buyer upped their offer. The sellers are leaning toward them. "I'm so sorry, Audrey." My dream was slipping away. But I remembered the clause, the 10-day window. "Do they have a closing date?" I asked, my voice surprisingly calm. "They want to close in 30 days, she said. I took a deep breath. "What if we can close in 21? I asked. Elena had explained that a faster closing was sometimes worth more than money to people moving on. "Use my pre-approval, show them the loan is ready. Make the new offer conditional only on a quick close." There was silence on the line. Then Miss Henderson said, "It's a bold move. Let me try." At a backyard party at our parents' house, Eric was in his element. "The real estate market is brutal," he pontificated to a group. "You need real leverage. Not fairy tale offers." He glanced at me, washing lettuce at the patio sink. "That little house on Oak Lane? Gone. Sold to a serious buyer. Some people just aren't cut out for it." Our relatives nodded sympathetically in my direction. I just kept washing the lettuce, a small, secret smile on my face. He was so confident in my failure, he was already telling the story of my defeat. He had no idea the sellers had just responded. They liked the faster timeline. The final negotiation was set for tomorrow. I could feel the tension humming in the air, but for once, it wasn't mine. My Uncle Leo, usually Eric's biggest fan, wandered over to me as I set out plates. Heard you've been spending a lot of time with paperwork, he grumbled, not unkindly. I nodded. Learning a lot, I said simply. He watched me for a moment. Saw that Henderson woman at the grocery store. She said you were the most prepared buyer she's worked with in years. He said it quietly, almost to himself. Then he patted my shoulder, a rare gesture. Smart to be prepared. He walked away, leaving me stunned. It was a tiny shift, almost invisible. But it was there. Someone in Eric's camp had just seen a crack in his narrative. The family dynamic, once solidly in his favor, had begun to quietly tremble. My phone rang early the next morning. It was Miss Henderson. Audrey, she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. They've accepted. All of it. The offer, the timeline, everything. We need to sign the final papers today. Can you be at my office at 2? The words blurred together. Accepted. Final papers. Today. Yes, I managed to choke out. I'll be there. I hung up and sank onto my couch, my whole body trembling. This was it. The strategic counteroffer, the relentless planning, the quiet endurance, it had worked. I was buying the house. Eric was at a golf outing with friends, completely oblivious. I got dressed with careful hands, a quiet, thrilling energy coursing through me. The final drive to the Realty office felt like the most important journey of my life. By sheer coincidence, our mom had organized a family brunch for that same Sunday. I arrived last, the signed, finalized paperwork burning a hole in my bag. Eric was holding forth again. And that's why you never get emotional about assets, he was saying. He saw me and gave a pitying smile. How's the great house hunt going, AUD? Found anything you can actually afford yet? Our mom shot him a look, but others tittered. I just smiled, taking a seat. It's going, I said calmly. He took my calmness for resignation. Don't worry, he said, magnanimous in his assumed victory. You'll find a nice apartment. Less responsibility. I sipped my orange juice, savoring the sweet, cold taste and the even sweeter knowledge in my heart. His ignorance was about to shatter. I had excused myself to take a call. Outside, I leaned against the house, breathing in the clear air. My phone buzzed. A text from Miss Henderson, congratulations, homeowner. The keys are at the office for you. Attached was a photo of a single silver key on her desk. At that exact moment, inside, I heard Eric's phone ping. Then another. He laughed. Whoa, guys, my phone is blowing up. Then his laughter stopped dead. A silence fell. I walked back inside. Every head turned toward me. Eric was staring at his phone, his face pale, his jaw slack. I knew what he saw. A text from a mutual friend who knew the sellers. Dude, did you hear? The Oak Lane house just sold. To your sister. The keys weren't just metal, they were the proof that shattered his entire world. The following weekend, we all gathered at our parents' for a casual dinner. The air was thick with unasked questions. Finally, during dessert, I saw my moment. I have some news, I said, my voice clear in the quiet room. I bought a house. Utter silence. Then, a burst of confused congratulations and shock. What? When? How? My mom gasped. I kept my eyes on Eric. The closing was last week. The bungalow on Oak Lane. Eric looked like he'd been slapped. The color drained from his face completely. That's impossible, he sputtered. There was another offer, I just nodded. There was. But mine was stronger. Better terms. The room erupted in a new wave of noise, excited questions, stunned whispers. The spotlight, forever fixed on Eric, had finally, decisively, swung to me. Eric tried to recover. Well, sure, but with the first-time buyer handout, anyone can get a foot in the door, he said, forcing a laugh. It's not like it was a competitive purchase. But his words fell flat. Our Uncle Leo spoke up. Ellen Henderson said Audrey outnegotiated a cash offer, Eric. That's not a handout. That's skill. Eric blinked, stunned into silence by this betrayal from his fan. I didn't gloat. I simply explained the process, the research, the program, the strategic closing timeline. I was graceful, letting the facts speak for themselves. As Eric floundered, trying to change the subject to his new car, our aunt leaned toward me and whispered, I always admired your quiet strength, Audrey. The shift in the family universe was complete. Later, as people chatted, Eric approached me, his voice low and tight. You think you're so clever, hiding all this? I looked at him, finally feeling nothing but pity. I wasn't hiding, Eric. I was working. While you were telling everyone I would fail, I was learning how to succeed. Responsibility isn't about telling people what to do. It's about doing the work yourself, quietly and well. He had no comeback. His usual arsenal of put-downs was useless against the solid, unshakable truth of my accomplishment. I turned back to my cousins, who were now asking me for gardening tips. My calm explanation was the sweetest revenge of all. I had won not with a shout, but with a quiet, undeniable success. In the weeks that followed, Eric tried harder. He bought flashy new tech. He talked loudly about a promotion. But it was like noise against a brick wall. The family conversation had changed. Now, they asked me about paint colors and moving tips. They praised my foresight and determination. At one gathering, Eric launched into a story about a complex deal, but our mom gently interrupted. That's nice, dear. Audrey, did you get that leaky faucet fixed? Eric stopped mid-sentence, looking around the table. He saw it then, the respect in their eyes when they looked at me, the polite patience when they looked at him. His arrogance had finally shown its true face, insecurity. He was left isolated, the echo of his own boasts his only company. The day I moved in was sunny and still. I placed the silver key on my new kitchen counter and listened to the profound quiet of my own space. No one's shadow, no one's expectations, just mine. I had proven to my family, and to Eric, that I was capable of great, responsible things. But more importantly, I had proven it to myself. Eric called once, his tone strangely hollow, to offer handyman advice. I thanked him politely and said I had it covered. I did. From fixing a wobbly shelf to planning my finances, I had it all covered. Standing in the sunlight streaming through the window of my own living room, I felt a deep, settled peace. I didn't just prove him wrong. I proved myself right. And that victory was mine to keep forever.